Welcome back to the channel. I'm Dwania Peele.
And I'm Brooke Gordon. And this is the unofficial review of the CEO Club on Prime Video.
Now, every episode, we're breaking down the real leadership moments, the tough decisions, the wins, and the misses.
Yes, and those lessons that every entrepreneur should be paying attention to.
Yeah, this is not just surface level commentary.
No, it is not. We are here for the strategy, the mindset, and that CEO level perspective.
So if you've watched the episode, or even if you didn't, just stay with us because we are about to unpack what really happened. Now, before we actually get into it, this is the review of episode 5 of season 1 of the CEO Club. And we have done reviews for the past 4 episodes. So I want to make sure you go back and watch those because we had opinions, okay? And as well, we want to hear your opinions. Make sure you leave them in the chat and make sure you share this video with other folks. Like all us entrepreneurs, let's create that community and let's talk. So let's dive in, Brooke. Let's dive in. Episode 5.
All right, before we dive in, just structurally, 2 things really stood out. First off, I really like the way that they recap what happened in the person's storyline who we're going to be seeing in that episode. It really brings continuity to where we left off. And I actually found it really helpful.
Yes, I did too, because I also feel like it's full disclosure, everyone. It's not like we watched all of them and then we're recording in the same day. So sometimes there's a little gap in between. And I felt like I needed a little bit of a reminder into what happened before we jump right into the new episode. And this one is called Cracking the Foundation.
Yep. And what I really love is how we open with Lauren and she's handing off the makeup line that she created herself. So this is almost like separate from the rest of all the companies that she's got. This is her thing. And she's handing it off to Amber, her daughter. And there's this moment, they're in the formal photo shoot and Amber's talking about how she really made a priority to have all these casual photos with her dad, and her dad's phone is full of photos with her. But she and her mom have such a different relationship. It's clearly there's more structure to the relationship with her mom because now they're doing a photo shoot together. And this is the first time in ages that they've had photos together.
Yeah, and I like you say handover. I think it was more of Amber yanking the business away from Lauren because Lauren is holding on for dear life.
And I love it because Lauren talks about how she's, created the concept, and Amber talks about how she loves to do the creative part for this line. But when you hear Lauren talk about her other lines, she was the VP of marketing, and it's marketing and the creative that is so important to her. So it's really interesting for me to hear how she self-identifies and compartmentalizes in a way, right? This is what I'm really good at on this project, not this is what I'm really good at in the breadth of all the things that I'm excellent at.
And it also shows us, at least I had that aha moment, how grand her brand is. I mean, they're doing huge shoots in Taiwan, and apparently the tickets for all their events were gone like this faster than they did in North America. So her presence is huge around the world. And I didn't realize that until this episode.
So we see Lauren and Winnie together, and we start to see how their relationship has blossomed over time, which I just love. And they're having coffee. And one of the things that, not what she talked about, but what I realized is here's Winnie trying to launch a brand in a sea of makeup brands. And here is Lauren with her own makeup line, right? Beauty line. And it's already grown to such a huge spot. And now she's handing it over so it can grow again. And really realizing that she and JR launched in a different era and how marketing is her primary focus, and how different how different the environments are of when she got started and where Winnie is now getting started. And I just found that so interesting to really see that generational gap in how we do things.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm glad you brought up Winnie because chronologically in my head, Winnie came next because
Yep.
Winnie, the thread of this episode with Winnie is, balancing her personal life with her professional life. But right now, her professional life is all about making things right with her brand.
Yeah.
So personally, she's like, yay, I found a condo in LA and I'll be bouncing back and forth between LA and Milwaukee because her now fiance, he's now drafted to Milwaukee, playing for the Bucks. So there's no work for a model in Milwaukee. So she has to go to LA. And I like there's a line that she says because whenever we hear Winnie talk about her relationship, we bring back the fact that you can tell she's in therapy because of the way how she looks at things. And I feel like she's very practical whenever something that might be a problem to other people arise. And she said they're making a commitment to the evolution of their lives.
Okay, there was a couple things that I loved about the way she said that, because I've got a couple other quotes from that same scene. And what I also found really fascinating, and I want to touch on it, maybe we can unpack it in a moment, is here she is saying most of her team is in LA and her opportunities are in LA, but we only see her in Miami and New York because that's where this film crew is. So she's coming to this area and changing things to make sure she's on camera.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's meeting with her whole team in Miami, and she's being filmed in New York with Lauren, but she talks about how her life really is in LA.
Yeah.
And so we get a little bit of a glimpse into how much travel and willingness to travel for the opportunities are there.
Yeah, yeah. And she did say in previous episodes, her life is traveling. She gets on a plane and she goes to where the work is.
Yeah.
Because she's rarely living where the work is.
Yeah. So her co-founder meeting is in Miami. She said her team is in LA. And I just really feel like there's how you start to really get a sense indirectly with the lens that you and I are bringing of like what's happening, of how much travel is involved in their lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other thing she said that I love, we are working on creating a workflow balance with where we plant our feet and where we spend our time. Because what is life if not to be lived?
Oh. Right. Winnie.
So thoughtful.
Yeah. 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 And in the same breath, like her sister's on the phone, like, I want some babies. When are you getting married? And she also, she shows us a glimpse of the illustration for her book. I was like, oh my gosh. I got really excited. And I think after that, we saw Talia again make an entrance because she has this amazing opportunity to do a music collaboration.
I know. You can start to see, so it's an artist who appears to be a bit younger than her, Hash.
Yeah.
And a couple of things that I thought was really lovely. You really also start to see what sacrifice looks like for those opportunities. We've been talking about travel, and Talia's experience is a different level of sacrifice. Everything has been planned for this film shoot, all right, of a collab song, and her sister unexpectedly passes away. And she's like, I have to show up like everything is fine. And that's the hardest part. You smile, you perform, and you hope that no one sees the cracks.
And in that, not only did she perform for the music video, but I also felt like she performed for us because we did not see a crack in her, even in her conversations with her partner. And she's saying that she's leading up to the story of, oh, my sister was sick. I visited in the hospital. And then all of a sudden I heard it took a turn for the worse. And then, oh my gosh, I lost my sister. And it's all in the same vein. And I'm like, okay. I was holding my breath like, Talia, are you okay? I don't know.
She's not. And whatever her level of focus, he walks in the room and she doesn't even look up.
Mm-hmm.
She's whatever she's focused on, she is in it. And I found that really interesting. And we see her getting her makeup on. We see her beautiful in her interview. And it's not until this tiny glimpse of Talia after the shoot where she says, I just need to go and spend some time with my family. And the woman who got into that SUV is in camo comfies, no makeup on, and you would walk right by her in the street and never know who she was.
Exactly. Yeah. She really, there are times where we do have to hold it together as entrepreneurs, right? But this is to another level. And I don't know if I could do it.
I find it just so interesting how they compartmentalize. Lauren does that. She, after JR had passed, she starts renovating their home in Miami. And, for everyone who has ever worked with a contractor and feel like you got taken advantage of, or the project, like you had to sit on the project in order to get it done. So here she is at a scale of dollars that's way bigger than any project I will likely ever get involved in. And 6 months have gone by from May until October, and nothing has happened. And yet she has project managers who are dedicated to looking after that. And immediately he starts justifying, well, it's cabling, it's this, it's that. So there's some real interesting dynamic going on, and yet he's at the table, stays at the table. So there's some other piece to that story, clearly, but really interesting how she's like, okay, we're done with this builder, and you almost get the feeling from the site that the builder was done with her.
Yeah, I mean, to put the scale into perspective, because that home is on, I think it's Star Island in Miami, and that is where all of we've seen some of her homes throughout the episodes. We've seen the Greenwich home. We've seen her home, like her condo in Miami, her condo in New York. The Greenwich home, which is massive, looks like it fits in the Miami home probably 3 or 4 times. And then there's another house next to that Miami home, but we can talk about that too. So and then I think, did she say she had another property somewhere else? I don't recall.
Yeah, they've got many houses. They also have a ship that she's trying to figure out what to do.
She's getting rid of. Yes,
she's got a mega yacht that it's stuck in the shipyard. She can't get it out for an event, and I kept thinking guest house. And she's like, oh, the place is under construction. What are you going to do with the guest house? No, the guest house is not a guest house. It is the property next door that they also bought for guests to stay and host events. Yeah.
So it's a different level. But yes, the compartmentalization, there are different levels to it. We see Lauren's, and I think it's for Lauren, especially with this house, because there are other properties, she doesn't have to think about this one too much. She can put it in her back pocket. With Talia, her sister was in a different country, and it's one thing to suddenly lose someone who's next to you every day versus someone who you might have to give a phone call to, or video, or get on a plane to see. I'm not saying it hurts less. I'm saying sometimes it's easier to put it in a pocket, because to you in your head, oh, I'm going to get on a plane and see this person, right? That's when it will hit you, when you get off that plane and realize, I will not see this person.
Well, and that's what happened, right? Because she was at the hospital, and then they said she was getting better, so she goes home.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Gets on a plane and goes home.
Oh, this episode.
I know. There's a couple other things in this episode that I thought were really interesting. While we're talking about Lauren uses the expression, I love you, very openly with the people who are close to her and the people she depends on. And I
Yes.
thought that was really interesting. And you see a couple of them don't respond in kind. And you hear Winnie very quietly say, "Love you too," as the camera is leaving that scene of them having coffee. And I thought it was so interesting. And Winnie's giving up her place in Miami, and immediately, without hesitation, Lauren's like, "Well, it's because you're going to come stay with me." And now we know, yeah, she is in the guest house next door.
Right. But I think with Lauren, she is trying to figure out her life, right? Her life
Mm-hmm.
without JR. But she's also consciously, as we're going to see in probably in future episodes, closing chapters and trying to probably not trying to make her entire being in this new chapter be all
Yeah.
about JR.
Yeah.
So she does express her love, but these are probably the people who have been with her in the trenches. So she feels that connection. But
And an anchor for her when she feels out to sea, right?
yeah.
And that she was drifting, and these people gave her an anchor. And you see the people who show up for her in the
Mhm.
party.
Mhm.
People unexpectedly, men show up for this party,
Yeah.
for her daughter, for a makeup brand, and you really see her friends showing up to support this handoff to Amber. And I love it because the whole crew pretty much shows up. We don't see Serena, but we see pretty much everybody else all
Yes.
show up.
Hannah was there. Isabel was there. We'll talk about Isabel too. Winnie was there.
Yeah.
Jamie Foxx showed up. Carmelo
Mhm.
Anthony showed up. I'm like, these people.
And again, with the "thank you so much for being here. It means so much. I love you."
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah. And it goes back to this whole in person and how important that is. You and I have talked about that before as a theme. I really feel with Winnie's story, it really started to show up. And then I don't want to lose what happens with Winnie and why she's in New York with Lauren. But she's got a product malfunction.
Mhm. Yes. And just as how we previously discussed in past episodes with Isabella in that level of detail, Winnie is experiencing the same thing, but from a different angle. Isabella is catching these things before it leaves.
Mm-hmm.
Winnie is now experiencing customer feedback on the lip portion of her best-selling SPF lip balm or lip gloss, I think it is. It's the applicator tip. And, in meeting with her partner and the PDs, they're saying either change the lip or change the formula. Now, no one wants to change a formula.
But they all suggest it, right? They're all like, just change
It's not easy.
the formula. And she's like, "Well, hold on. The whole point is the SPF. So if we reduce the SPF, this is against my mission." And for all the times you and I have talked about mission, vision, values with our clients, and to see her saying, "But my mission is," and then make a decision around that. Oh, I like lit up listening to that.
Mm-hmm. And then when they finally find a tip in pure Winnie style, because she doesn't really stress. She's like, put it in the factory and never skip your SPF.
Right, I know. And it's so interesting because Lauren, who, I mean, this is what she does, right? Is having a beauty brand, and she's like, it's harder to change the formula than the bottle.
Yeah.
Change the bottle. But even Sephora, first thing out of that, you're going to have to change the formulation. And that's when we see Winnie being deferential. And she's like, "Yeah, we considered that. We thought about it. We also explored changing the applicator tip." And, just so listening to her, she's still pitching like every other founder that you and I know.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Because she is looking at Sephora across from the table, feeling that they're the ones with the power.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's her brand and her decision, she might have to kowtow to whatever they say.
Yep.
As opposed to, this is my decision, take it or leave it. And I was a little interested, so I went online. At least not in Sephora Canada, I do not see case scan, and I was a little annoyed because I was ready to put that lip balm in my cart. But Winnie, I did also go to your website. Don't worry, the website's still up because I'm about to put it in my cart anyway.
Good, good. But I think this is really important because we hear the why, right? She's got her business partner, and then she's got her brand manager beside her saying, listen, we are operations manager. And she's like, we need to get another round of funding next year. So we need all our milestones in place. And these customer reviews are hurting us. We have to get in front of it. And in that meeting with Sephora's like, okay, where do you want to start the meeting? And Winnie's like, there's a problem with the lip applicator. Like, we're getting customer feedback. And Sephora's like, okay, I'm glad you want to address this head on. And that was the test.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Overall, though, when you think of this episode, how do you feel about Winnie's trajectory, Talia's trajectory, and Lauren's? Because this is the first episode 4 and 5. Those are the middle episodes. We are right past the halfway mark of this season.
It's really interesting. I feel like Talia talks about how she innovates so much, and to the point where she's almost innovating too much, and she wants to go back to singing. And hearing about the loss of her sister, I can understand why she needs to stand in what she knows well. And so for her, she's talking about TikTok, and she's talking about like what it means to do new. She talks about how with her husband, I need a lot of us because I cannot be here for me right now. And so I feel like she's going to take time. She needs to cocoon emotionally. And at the end of this, I feel like there's going to be a whole new album that comes out on the other side, because she's been in therapy. We've heard her talk about that, and music is part of that outlet. And I feel like she's going to grieve in a quite, I don't know if there's a healthy way to grieve, but I feel like she's going to give herself space to grieve. Winnie, I feel like she's still trying to starfish. She doesn't have a core priority. Everything has really, she's got a book, she's got Kay, she's still trying to model, she wants to have a family. Like, all of these pieces are pulling her, and she feels like a starfish. And so her trajectory doesn't feel for me like it's got the momentum that she wants. And you hear that in how she talks about herself. And then Lauren, I feel like Lauren does have momentum because she's starting to take action. Yeah. And so I feel like she is going to figure out what's next. She's had a lot of things. Like, this house is really, I feel like, indicative of her life. That there's a couple of projects, they're really big, she's heavily invested in them, but she's not sitting on them with care and attention. And so they have lapsed. But she then is like, nope. And she brings her focus onto it, and then it's done. And so I feel like Lauren is going to find her way forward, and she will figure it out.
I'm also interested to see, because, we're introduced to all these ladies, and I would love, by the time we get to the end, they were able to help each other close some loops. Because you have the seasoned ones like Lauren, who can assist the up and coming ones like Winnie. And there's some things that she can't assist with, but there might be some things that she could be able to provide direction for. I am very interested with Talia's career, because this show is also getting an English audience to get to know her very well. And it would be great if she decides that she's going to be a part of a tour. I know a lot of the Latin community, they do a lot of women tours. It would be great for her to do those tours across the world, because, I mean, if I'm being totally honest, I spent my Friday at work listening to Carol G all day, Colombian artist because I'm like, Carol G's coming. I like her vibe. I don't know all her songs,
Mhm.
but I'm going to, you know? So it could be the same with Talia, where you attract that English audience and now we are those forever fans where we'll love your music, but we'll also start trickling to loving all the other brands that you have, like the makeup line and the clothing line, the shoes, all those things. So you have a new fan base right ahead of you, Talia, and us getting to know you, the person, really does help with that. So I'm excited to see where everyone goes. It's a lot of ladies to follow.
I know, right? And I think you raised such a good point. I just want to say it because you and I really, it's like our original thesis was how do we take these like very well established women with their ventures and how do we make it relatable to those of us who are at a more modest level of growth. And I think the biggest thing is each one of them, when you just said it, Talia has a makeup line, Winnie has a cosmetic line, we've got Lauren with multiple cosmetic lines, we've got Serena with a cosmetic line, and when you start to look at that, you really start to realize brand is important in the level of detail that they bring to brand, but the other piece is that there is market share out there when you find your people.
Definitely. Oh my gosh, this has been a good
I
episode.
know. All right, I feel like I want to flip the script on you.
Okay.
How would you rate this episode?
How do I rate this episode?
Mm-hmm.
I am going to give this episode, I might be a little biased, but I think I would give this episode like a 9 out of 10.
Okay, this one like really touched deeply.
It did because I felt I understood Winnie a lot more in this episode.
Mm.
And for Lauren, I feel I got an understanding of how her brain works. And it also led me to say, I said this to myself as I sat on the couch. This show is surrounding Lauren. This is Lauren's show.
Mm.
This is Lauren's show. Lauren has had pivotal moments in every single episode. This is Lauren's show.
I almost wonder if this is Serena's way of holding her. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I am going to say an 8 on this one because I feel like they introduced us to a lot. Mm-hmm. I really appreciated the intimate conversations that they brought us into. Whether they're scripted or not is not the point. They brought us into those conversations. But for the cracks in the foundation, I felt like everyone had their their guard was up because they were trying to cover the cracks, and so it was a beautiful episode all around, but it was missing in some ways the genuine, not genuineness, because they're all very genuine in how they interact, but yeah, there was a barrier, there was an emotional barrier in this one. So for me it was an 8 out of 10 instead of a 9.
Okay, tell us. Okay, 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10. All right. Huh.
Mm-hmm. And friends, what about you? Come drop it in the comments because we want to hear what would you rate it at?
Yeah, because I mean, we might say 8, we might say 9, but you might give it a 10 out of 10. Tell us why. And let us know if you thought differently about any of our comments, please. And please make sure that you subscribe, turn on your notifications, and like this video. It is an easy and free way of supporting this channel.
Oh, and we ask because the boardroom conversations don't stop when the cameras cut.
They don't. So guess what? We'll see you in the next episode review. Bye.